live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is warm out here. It is Monday, July 17th. We're going in depth tonight on the heat wave that is encompassing the entire state of Utah, not just the northern part of the state, but the southern part of the state as well. Temperatures creeping to that 110-degree mark and beyond. We're going to go in depth on this tonight. UDOT worked quickly to repair road buckling concerns, mostly in the northern part of the state. We told you about an area of the North Temple area with Redwood Road yesterday that buckled. Drivers were just still going over it. The right lane of US 189 in the Layton area was also of concern. That road buckled too. Our Amanda Gilbert was looking into this. She was in the mobile weather lab. She was going to join us here on 2 News Live, but I don't believe we have Amanda Gilbert, so we're going to move on to another part of our program here. So we have dry conditions in parts of the state of Utah. Obviously, as we've had throughout the course of the last few weeks, we have certain parts of the state that have dried out a lot quicker than others. Conditions getting hotter and drier in parts of the state. Emma Riley joining us live now. Emma, we do not have Emma Riley either, so we will move on to looking into our current state of wildfires here in the state of Utah. Let's take a look at some of these pictures that we got just into our newsroom a few moments ago. This is the Sunny Cove fire. It is burning in the Flaming Gorge area. We don't have a whole lot of specs on this one. The first photo that was sent my way about 3:30 this afternoon. The fire has grown to at least 5 acres in just the last few days, last few hours or so. Temperatures warming up, so these areas are starting to dry out. Crews are on scene trying to work on this one. The cause, as we know it, still under investigation. Let's go back to where we began. Amanda Gilbert joining us live now, talking about roads buckling. No roads are buckling near us right now, Amanda, but there are certain parts of the state, certain parts of even the Wasatch Front area that have had some of these issues.
They have, and a big one near here actually is the Redwood Road and North Temple intersection. They had basically the road buckling happened across the entire road, so it was closed a bit yesterday, but UDOT jumped into action right away, and things are patched for now temporarily. They said they really just want to address these issues as fast as they can, because they basically mean that you could either damage your car by driving over it or get into an accident if you try to swerve around it. And they say it's really a hard thing to prevent, but if you do notice road buckling, please reach out to the Department of Transportation right away.
It's okay. So Amanda, when you were out and about earlier today, you were obviously in certain parts of the northern part of the state here. What's the concern in central Utah? Is it the same?
Yeah, so actually what's interesting is this is not as big of a concern in more southern Utah, even though it is warmer down there. And the reason for that is because up in the more northern region, we're dealing with more concrete roads. In the south, they have more asphalt roads. And UDOT today told me that this is exclusively or almost exclusively a problem with concrete roads. So coming up at 6 in just a few minutes here, we're gonna dive more into that. Back to you, Brian.
Amanda Gilbert live for us in Salt Lake City tonight. Amanda, thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. As we mentioned, conditions, of course, getting hotter in parts of the state. Normally this time of year, depending on how things go, we are into a more significant wildfire presence. Emma Riley spoke with the National Weather Service today. Emma, what did you learn about the current state of fires this year and the certain conditions that go into all of that compared to years past?
Well, this year we are dealing with a smaller percentage of drought. I spoke to a hydrologist today who told me that even though we did have a wet winter, we can still expect to have a pretty active fire season. It's dry grass like this that can spark a wildfire. So if you have that in your backyard, they're telling people to definitely get rid of it. But he said this will probably be more of a problem rather than large timber fires that they have seen in years past. But he said that the wet winter definitely did help and prevent wildfires this year.
Emma, just around you, I noticed you're, I think, in the Avenues area, because I recognize the neighborhood. You're high above Salt Lake City. Very interesting location there, because you've got the grass that is totally dried out, then a lot of the brush and the timber there around the homes that's still pretty green. I'm imagining people in that neighborhood just kind of need to be ready for whatever at this point.
Yeah, and that's something that he did talk about, is that people think, we had a really wet winter, so there's not too much to worry about, but the grass is a lot taller this year, so that is something to worry about. But it's the timber fires that will probably be less likely because our reservoirs are so full right now.
Emma Riley live for us in Salt Lake City tonight with a nice view of the city. I know it well. I'm envious. Emma, thanks so much. So the concern there, obviously the grass fires can move quickly, Sterling, as we're seeing still some pretty wet fuels at those higher elevations. And they've been talking about those wet conditions really could move or even shift our fire concerns in those higher elevations to later months.
Yeah, that could happen. And the other thing we want to watch, Brian, is those thunderstorms, especially the dry thunderstorms, and we're starting to see some of that showing up in the forecast. So we're going to talk more about that coming up. Those dry lightning storms are definitely a fire starters and can happen very quickly. High pressure to our south. We're starting to see a little moisture to the sneaking up into the southwestern part of the state, and that could increase over, and in fact will increase over the next 24 hours all the way into Thursday. So we'll watch that for you. In fact, here's a look at radar right now, and you can see that we have some light showers. Now what this probably is virga, and that's rain that falls from the cloud. It evaporates before it gets to the ground, but it cools the air, and as it does so, that cool air falls to the earth faster, and then it spreads out, and we create what we call a microburst. So those areas with virga are creating some very gusty winds and very dusty conditions as those microburst winds kick up. Here's a look at radar right now. You can see along I-15 we've actually had apparently 2 or 3 semis that got blown over with some of these microburst winds from these little guys that are moving from the southwest to the northeast. We're not seeing any lightning in these, but they are producing some gusty winds. There is some lightning, however, down here just along the Utah-Nevada border, moving toward the northeast. So we've still got more storms there. We've had some storms just to the north of Circleville, a couple of lightning bolts in one of those storms. But for the most part, it's been very dry, 1/100 of an inch so far in July here in Salt Lake City. And so we're about in the top 5 driest Julys on record so far. And this is the 3rd month in a row. We were below normal in May, we were below normal in June, and now we're below normal in July. So things are going to dry out for sure. 66 in Richfield and Cedar City tonight, 64 in Elko, 76 in Moab, and 81 in St. George. Tomorrow's highs will be in the 90s, so closer to normal for most folks. A little bit warmer than normal down in St. George, still 108, 97 in Blanding. Here's a look at future track as we put everything into motion. You can see that we do have those possible showers popping up along a cold front that's going to settle in and basically become a stationary front for a couple of days, and that's going to be the focus of thunderstorm activity. You can see this is midnight Tuesday night. Some showers and thunderstorms around the Salt Lake area. Then some Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning, we could see a few showers. And then as we move into Wednesday evening, it looks like maybe a more organized system comes through the Wasatch Front. So we could see a few waves of thunderstorm activity, but don't expect a lot of rain from these storms unless the atmosphere really gets a lot more moisture in it than it's got right now. 106 at Arches, 103 at Zions, Capitol Reef 88, and Bryce Canyon 86. And we do have the possibility of flash flooding at Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Grand Staircase, Zion National Park. All of those areas have the possibility of seeing flash flooding tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Keep your, make sure you have the latest forecast. Let somebody know if you're going to commit yourself to one of those slot canyons, when you're expected, when you're coming back, and so all of those people know where you are. And this is the 24th of July at noon. And you can see we have that high pressure near the Four Corners, which could open the door, which usually happens about the 24th of July. We get that at the beginning of the monsoon. And so we could actually see some thunderstorms rolling in as we get toward the end, a week from today, let's say. Okay, here's the forecast then for the next 7 days. We're looking at those temperatures hanging out right there in the triple digits, way above normal by Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, I should say, and then we back it off to 106 on the 24th of July. For Salt Lake City, mid-90s, upper 90s, then 102 Saturday, 101 Sunday. And once again, on Monday, we see a chance of those temperatures hitting triple digits on the 24th of July.
Oh, triple digits, just what everyone wants, especially when they're outside. Sterling, I won't lie. I know we were in triple digits here in the Salt Lake area today. With the breeze coming through behind the building, honestly. We're here in downtown, and the shade doesn't feel so bad. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, it's not terribly hot, and it hasn't been for days and days and days. We've had 2 days now of really hot days, so once that wind picks up a little bit, it does help things out. Your humidity's low enough that your skin evaporates, and you get a little bit of evaporative cooling off those muscly arms of yours.
That's right, yes. I've been working on them just for this very moment. Sterling,
Okay.
thanks so much.
All right.
So it's interesting because I'm relatively comfortable here, and we're going to get to some folks that are probably uncomfortable in just a moment. Remember to download our 2 News weather app to know about changes in your neighborhood. You can get updated forecasts, live radar right at the palm of your hand. This is a great app. It's free to download. Make sure you get the 2 News weather app today. Talking about people that are dealing with much different conditions with the heat, thousands of people along Salt Lake County's east side had to deal with that triple-digit heat with no power in parts of the Olympus Cove area, Millcreek, even creeping into Holiday. There were thousands of people that were out without power throughout the part of the day when we had already reached triple-digit temperatures before noon in parts of Salt Lake City. It was a little bit cooler on the east side. Paul Nelson live for us in Millcreek. What are they doing, Paul, to try to keep the power on and keep it on for good?
Well, first of all, I found a shady spot here in Millcreek, and I'll be honest with you, you are not moving me. I don't care what you ask me to do. I'll try to flip around and show you where I am. This is Wasatch Boulevard, around 3900 South, and earlier today, this intersection here was without power. Did cause a little bit of a traffic mess. However, the bigger problem was actually a little bit further north. You could see that all those houses that are kind of up in that area, I'll flip around the camera there, basically all of them up there were completely without power. And the reason why is because there were several different outages that happened, according to Rocky Mountain Power, that basically became one huge mess to deal with. You had a lot of people that were just kind of, one man that we spoke with said that he was actually trapped in a medical chair, you know, those kind that kind of lay down. He wasn't able to get out for quite a while because there was no power to actually levitate him back up. So he was basically stuck there for quite a little bit. And so finally, when he was able to crawl out of it, it was a significant struggle for him. He normally is not able to do that, but he says stuff like that can be pretty dangerous. So he says he's lucky that he didn't get hurt in this power outage. But what companies are doing in order to keep the power on, they tell us that they spend a lot of their time in spring and in fall actually preparing for the summer peak usage. So they were doing that before, and they're trying to keep up with any kind of outages that happen now.
Paul, just quickly, what's the message from the folks at Rocky Mountain Power if you are going through some of these adverse conditions in your home, if the power shuts off, if you need the help? I'm assuming they would just tell you, hey, if you need the assistance, call 911?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when I asked them, what is Rocky Mountain Power, what can they do to help to keep people cool in a situation like that? And one of the things they said was that, well, they agree with the advice that says you need to have a 72-hour kit just in case, say, essential services like, say, water and power are turned off. But the other thing that they say that they do, they actually do have mobile generators that they can truck in. So if there's one substation that loses power, they can actually bring in a truck that would generate power for that station as well. So they have a lot of things that they do in order to kind of keep up with any kind of outage, but basically they can never guarantee that there would never be an outage.
Paul Nelson live for us in the shade, or they could just take your advice, Paul, leave the house, go find a shady spot and kick the feet up for a little bit.
And don't move.
And don't move. I think we'll have to come get you after work. Paul, thanks so much.
Yeah.
The advice always, call for help if you need it. Call that non-emergency line. Of course, if the conditions worsen and you are a member of, obviously, the elderly community and you have some health concerns, calling 911 never hurts. They want you to call for help. The same goes for if you're playing with fireworks and something goes wrong. Over the last year, there's been a dramatic increase in burn patients at the University of Utah Health Burn Center. Just a few years ago, they saw about 4,500 patients into the burn center. Just last year, 5,500. Already this year, 6,000. And they're seeing an increase with the summer months.
Want to catch these things early. If you see something, say something. If you hear fireworks going off or you see fireworks being lit in some of these no restricted areas, please call. We'd rather get onto that and extinguish those as soon as possible, rather than waiting and just kind of leaving it up to your neighbor to call or somebody else. Don't hesitate.
There has been an uptick in the number of people who have been injured by burn injuries. And so what we've seen in our burn unit is that we've had, over the last year, we've just been growing. We've seen over 6,000 visit types in our outpatient clinic. That's almost 2,000 visits increase over the last 2 years. In the last couple of months, we've seen an uptick in the number of pediatric campfire and firework injuries. And so we are noting a lot more pediatric patients. This is also very consistent with those being out of school and us wanting to have fun and enjoy the holidays. We just want to make sure that you're being safe. Some of the common ways that we see people, or our pediatric patients specifically, be injured is walking over campfires that we think are extinguished, but they're not. Or they're walking on hot asphalt, which is actually much, much hotter than we might anticipate. We want to just have everyone be thoughtful about fireworks in general and what is considered safe, because the types of injuries we see are usually pretty devastating. They do require surgery, and this is a lifelong injury that they have to deal with. And so we really just want everyone to be very careful with any fireworks that are being used, and keeping a significant distance away from them, and not letting our little ones manage or hold on to any of the igniters or lighters or things along that line. And also remember, as an adult, if you are having beverages that make you incapacitated or disinhibited, that this is also a risk for you. And we have seen some significant sort of orthopedic issues related to some of our fireworks recently in the early parts of this summer. So please be careful.
Well, let's give you another update on a wildfire burning along the Flaming Gorge area. It's called the Sunny Cove Fire. At last check, 5 acres burned. However, I just had some video sent to me in a text message right now that shows some pretty significant growth. There are a number of resources out there. Someone sent me the photo, basically the one you're seeing here. This was taken just after 3:30, right when the smoke was first visible. It has grown pretty substantially. You can see some of the fuels in that area are definitely green, but it has dried out rather quickly. The cause is still under investigation. I reached out to the folks at the Ashley National Forest because this is burning on Forest Service land. You may remember from a few years ago, the largest wildfire in the state of Utah at the time, the East Fork Fire, was in this general area burning on the Ashley National Forest. They are no strangers to wildfire, and they are working on this, and as we speak, when we get more information, we will bring it to you. Thanks for joining us for 2 News Live. Thanks to everybody who did join us today on 2 News Live. Emma Riley, Amanda Gilbert, Paul Nelson, and of course, all of you at home. Thanks for streaming us here on YouTube, Facebook, KUTV.com, and the 2 News mobile app. We're also on your television. We invite you to join us that way too. If you see something, send it to us and chime in. 'Tis the season for wildfires. Stay cool. Have a great night.